I always have to get in character before the show. The Grand Schwalbini insists that I am in character before the show.
Because you are the technical director.
I am your technical director, and this is the Sports Porch Philadelphia coming to you right now. Currently, if you're not listening to the podcast, we are live Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Fantasy Alpha Crowd in the house, all over the world. And I do drop the podcast right after the show. I say I drop the podcast because the Grand Schwalbini just Grand Schwalbinis.
I mean, I'm kind of like the face of the show, and you're the technical director. You do all the things behind the scenes.
That's right. And I do them well, right?
Most of the time. There's been a few, stumbles along the way.
We'll just call them stumbles. How about that? So thanks for being here, everybody. As always, we are
looking live right now at the Garden in New York City, and it looks like Tyrese Maxey, who earlier in the day,
they're both questionable.
Yeah, they were both questionable, but they're both out there hooping it up. So it looks like they're both going to be a go.
That would be good.
It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, it is necessary. I agree. So we want to encourage you to follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube. And if you're watching us live, you can see in the ticker at the bottom of the screen, it's youtube.com backslash.
Not a backsplash.
I know. I say that every time.
That's in the kitchen.
I know it is.
Yeah.
Backslash.
Part of living with a realtor.
That's right. At Philadelphia Sports Porch. The Grand Schwalbini gets on and talks gives his analysis after every single Sixers playoff game. Yep. And God willing, there will be a lot of analysis this year.
Let's hope so. Let's
move on to page one. We go page one, page two, page three, based on the fact.
It's as if we've gone back 20 years and we still have newspapers.
Yes, well, you do.
Yeah.
That's your game. So game two
used to be the Philly Daily News. I used to love to page through.
That was the flip one, right?
Yeah.
Not like I never really liked the Inquirer. It was too much like a paper.
Yeah, it was.
I like the Daily News.
Yeah. The Daily News was more fun.
Yeah.
You go to the back. The sports started on the back.
Yeah,
and then you flipped, and then it ended kind of like midway through.
Is the Daily News gone?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I mean, I know the Inquirer is still there, but just kind of like the way any, city paper is, it's mostly still people just go online, to check it out. But
all right, page one tonight, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Grand Schwalbini is going to talk about this. Is game two versus the Knicks a must win? Now let's recap the first game. Of course, the Sixers lost 111 to 104. Embiid had a sick dunk,
right?
Where he lofted the ball onto the backboard from the foul line, jumped up, dunked it, fell wonky on his knee,
right? And
everybody got quiet,
right? Well, because the bottom line is, I mean, he just went down.
Yeah,
he went down. It wasn't like he tried to run back or anything. It was like he went down like, I better not get up because this could be it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, the thing is, I mean, man, like it's, and I said this, on the 10-9-8 76ers playoff talk podcast, the hard part of this is it's so hard to almost let yourself enjoy the Sixers.
Yeah.
Because you're always waiting for the shoe to drop. It's just like, it's like, for example, the Sixers could go all the way to the finals and be up 3-0 and be up at halftime, a game 4. And if Embiid goes down, it's like, then they would lose the series 4-3. You know what I mean? Like, it's that big of a difference. Like he makes that much of a difference.
He does.
And it's that's the frustrating thing. He's always hurt. He's always hurt. And I really thought that after he got the surgery, spent a lot of time, just rehabbing and didn't play much, and then came back and it looked like, he played like 5, I think, regular season games when he came back. and all of them except like the last one, they said he came up a little gimpy on his knee one time, but I thought like, okay, got the surgery, he should be good for a while.
Right.
And God knows, man. God knows. I mean, it's the thing that's just so frustrating is like, he makes that play, the bounce the ball off the backboard, slam dunk, one hand over people. And like, that should be a play that we always remember, like as like a signature play.
Yeah.
And what do we remember it by? Well, we remember it by, bottom line, if we don't win the championship, it'll be the play at the end of the season. Pretty much.
It
pretty
could
much.
be. Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, it could
now,
be.
Look, I mean, I don't want to get completely down in the dumps because, he did come back and play the rest of the game. He certainly didn't have much lift in the fourth quarter. And that was probably because he was concerned about his leg the rest of the way, but he did still get a lot of points.
What, 29 points?
I think it was less than that. It might have been like 23.
Yeah.
Like 8 rebounds.
Well, Maxey was the leading scorer with 33 points. Right. And let's get to some of the things you talked about on the 10987 Sixers,
right,
76ers podcast and show on YouTube. In the first game, in game 1, the Sixers shot 44% from the field and the Knicks shot 39%. But the big thing you talked about was the Knicks shot almost 46% from 3-point range,
right?
Which is not usual.
Yeah, which is insane. I mean, like for those of you who might not follow the NBA very well, I mean, if you have one guy on your team who shoots 40%, and it's usually like somewhere between like 40 and 42% over the entire season, one guy on your team,
yeah, that's amazing.
Then you have one of the best shooters in the league. I mean, the entire team shot 45%.
Let me break in here real quick just to make a football announcement here because I think it's hilarious. The Jets trade quarterback Zach Wilson to the Broncos.
I don't think anybody cares though.
Okay, that's why I wanted to do that. So yeah, right. 40. So the Knicks, the probability of the Knicks doing that again
is low,
very low,
But probably the more concerning thing is that the Sixers were out rebounded. Like I think it was 55.
I've got it right here. Yeah, 55 rebounds
to 33.
So those second chance shots. And the bench scoring that you talked about, coming off the bench, the Knicks scored like 40 points off the bench.
Right. It was they had 40 some points and the Sixers had 7 off the bench. So horrible. I mean, really, I mean, think about that. I mean, think about with all those offensive rebounds. Let's just say that so they out rebounded the Sixers by what 23. Something like
22.
Do
you need a calculator, Schwab? I mean, these are simple.
Hey, I'm I don't have it in front of me, man.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not like, I'm pretty smart, but I'm not I'm not a genius.
You're not a genius level?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if I forget it. I was gonna say something terrible.
Yeah.
Because I was watching this thing on like the space shuttle. I was like, yeah, see, if I was in charge of the space shuttle, it would crash.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a downer.
Yeah, it is. And there have been crashes.
Right.
Too,
but going away from that.
None of them were relatives of yours?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
But let's just say, look, so they got 22 more rebounds. Look, if they got 15 more shots up than the Sixers did, well, they won by 7 freaking points.
Well, yeah. So we've touched on pretty much exactly why they lost, which is always easy to do after the fact.
Right.
And it's also easy to say, well, that's not going to happen again.
Right.
But look, it is basketball. And things like this happen.
Well, and it also, look, that kind of is the Knicks' identity. I mean, the Knicks' identity is that they are a real hustle team.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this as well. When Embiid doesn't have more than 10 rebounds in a game and he only had 8.
Yeah.
Part of that is also, maybe not trusting the leg.
Right.
So one of the things that Nick Nurse said in his press conference was that he might play. Usually Paul Reed comes in to, give Joel a breather and to give him a couple minutes.
Right.
But he was saying that he might actually play Paul Reed with Joel to take some of that rebounding burden off Joel. And, maybe we can get some more rebounds, with, when he's on the floor.
Yeah. This is one of those things where the nervousness you talked about in the beginning of our segment here.
Right.
It's less that you're always, because I think in any series, especially, you're always waiting for that injury shoe to drop, like, oh God, here it is. That's the wild card. Somebody gets you, everybody's going to play a bad game. Everybody's going to play a great game. It's if they get injured, it's like, oh boy, now we got a problem. Once you see something like that happen, now you're on edge, because how much pain does he have? Is it actually an injury, or is it a little bit of a strain? This is an injury he's had before.
Or is some of it mental?
Or is some of it mental?
Is it, is the knee just fine, but he's scared when he lands on it awkwardly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Knees are pretty important in basketball.
Right.
In every sport, actually.
Yeah. So, I think the good news is, Nick Nurse is a really good coach. So I think he is going to make some adjustments. And look, I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, the Knicks shot the lights out from three.
Yeah, 45.6%.
They out 7%. Yeah, they out rebounded the Sixers by 22. Okay, their bench outscored the Sixers bench by 30 plus some, and the Sixers were still in position to win the game with 3 minutes left.
Yeah. So what is the biggest adjustment? Let's take the Embiid situation out of the game. Let's assume he plays, the whole game, full strength, and he says, the hell with it. It's not in his head. What's the biggest adjustment you think they should make?
I think that
if there was one that they should make, what's the biggest one?
I think they got to get more people involved. I think that, Embiid and Maxey are going to score a lot no matter what. They're both going to score over 20 points in every game. But, if it's the two of them combining for 60 points, that's not always, the best, recipe for a win.
Right.
You got to get other people involved. Like, look, Tobias Harris is, as much as it's brutal to watch him play because he is such a disappointment. At the same time, look, he averaged 18 points a game.
He's got to get that.
He's got to get that, or 15, not 7.
Right.
And also I think, that Nick Nurse should maybe use another guy or two off the bench. Cam Payne is a good player, hits 3-pointers, gives you a lot of energy. He came in for like 3 minutes and hit a 3 for you. He's a guy who should get some time. I even think maybe even a guy like a Ricky Council could get some time because he's physical, and he can rebound and he can battle with some of these Knicks players. So that's the thing. I mean, look, here's the thing. The Knicks are a good team. There's no doubt about it. And if they beat the Sixers, they'll have deserved to beat the Sixers.
Right.
But I'm sorry, you look at that team and even though he's a really darn good player, I mean, like, Jalen Brunson is your best player.
Right.
Like, seriously?
Right.
I mean, he's a good player, but he's kind of like, to me, he's like a borderline all-star, so it's kind of like, and they're winning by playing team ball and, and basically having unsung heroes come up with big shots.
Yeah. And I don't think that's sustainable.
Hopefully it's not sustainable. But the other part of it is that the Knicks did kind of handle the Sixers in the regular season this year.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's not a good matchup for the Sixers.
Yeah. Well, and I think we'll find that out tonight.
Right. Well, here's the other thing I think that we have to talk about as well is the New York Knicks fans. Okay.
Yeah.
They are idiotic.
Okay.
Okay. So I probably should have showed you some of these pictures before the game. Dude, this is game 1 of round 1 of the NBA playoffs. Okay. They were celebrating in the streets after the game as if they had won the NBA championship. And at the end of the game, which they barely won, they were chanting, "We want Boston. We want Boston." Like, you won one game. I mean, like
I can attest to you that would not happen in Philadelphia.
Oh, it definitely wouldn't. But, look, and maybe part of it is, the Knicks just, boy, it's been a real long time since they've had any kind of playoff success.
Yeah, that's where I was going. When's the last time they won the NBA championship?
Yeah, it's like, it might be like 72 or 60.
I was going to say they never won it with Ewing.
Yeah.
They got close.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I mean, come on, man. Like, calm down a little bit. Like, if anything, I think that's one of those things that, sort of as a, whether you want to call it like, you don't want to give the opposing team something to, rally around.
Yeah.
And I think that they did. They gave the Sixers something to rally around because they're acting like a bunch of bitches.
Yeah, right.
That's the truth of it.
Yeah. Well, and the game tonight starts at what, 7 or 7:30?
I think 7.
Yeah.
I mean, or not, maybe it is 7:30 actually.
I can tell you here in just a second. It is 7:30 p.m. on TNT.
But the reality is that we say it's a must win. It's really a must win in terms of, if the Sixers are going to win this series, not going 7 games. But it's not really, really a must win. We've seen many times before where a team wins the first 2 at home and then the road team wins the next 2 and it's a series. You know what I mean? So it's not a total must win, but it's a must win if you're thinking about, winning in 6, like the Grand Schwalbini predicted.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the regular season standings. Both these teams came out of the regular season on a hot streak. The Sixers winning 8 straight and the Knicks winning their last 5.
Right.
So this is one of those series that could easily end up going 7. I really think it could.
Yeah.
We have a comment coming in here. I'm guessing it's 72-73 Knicks won the championship. Thank you.
That might have been like Bernard King.
What did he play back in 72?
I don't know. I just know the story about him. He came out, he was limping, he played 2 minutes and scored 3 points, and then they won, and they attribute it to him instead of all the guys who actually scored the 100 points that they needed.
The 100 points. Yeah. The other 97 points.
Right.
Okay, follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And we do drop the podcast right after the show.
Frazier. Yeah, that's right. He's the guy who had the big game, Walt Frazier.
Subscribe and leave us a review. How does Steve know this? He must be looking this stuff up.
Yeah, he's got to be looking this stuff up.
There's no way he knows that much about basketball. I mean, come on. He's a hockey guy.
They don't even have an NBA team where he's from.
That's right. And follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@Philadelphia Sports Porch. For the Grand Schwalbini, talking about every Sixers playoff game, giving you analysis, and
I'll be on later this evening.
Things that you will not hear on your mainstream media. Steve says the Google. Of course, we knew he was looking it up.
Yep, Google helps.
Okay, turning the page to page 2. This is some good news, and we've been We've been hoping for this.
Yep.
And the Phillies they're on a tear. They win 6 straight. They're now in second place behind Atlanta by just a couple games.
Same amount of wins.
And that's right. Same amount of wins. And I need to pull up the Phillies here on the screen just to keep myself relevant. But you had sent to me today a couple things I think you wanted to talk about.
I did.
And one of them, the first one was their starting pitching.
Yeah, starting pitching's really, really good. So, all 5 starters have an ERA. The highest one is Nolo, I think, at 3.14.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't that right? Or
3.16.
Right. That's the highest. Then you got Wheeler's at 2.3. And you've got, what do you got on there? You got Sanchez is like 2.5. Ranger Suarez is like
173.
173. I think
Turnbull 123.
123.
Sanchez is 253. Their starting pitching is superb.
It is
superb.
It's really good, which is what it's supposed to be.
Yes.
So that's good.
So they took 3 from the Rockies after taking splitting with the Pirates, and we were a little worried. They took 3 straight from the Rockies. They had one of them that was a shutout. The other one they gave up 1 run. They only scored 2, but then they beat the White Sox 7-0. Then they put 9 up on the White Sox and 8 up on the White Sox. So it's also not for lack of hitting either.
Yep.
And in that turn, Trey Turner has been named NL Player of the Week. He has a 10-game hitting streak going, is batting .500 over the last week. So,
right.
Hey, this is the guy that you signed last year.
Right. So he's off to a much better start. And the Phillies overall are off to a much better start. I mean, I think, for me, look, it's you still got to say advantage Braves for the Braves winning the division just because they are such a darn good team.
Right.
But at least, we're not going to just hand it to them this year. I'm thinking that the Phillies and the Braves are going to battle it out all season long. And I hope that it comes down to the last 2 weeks in terms of who's going to win the division.
And speaking of the Braves, what was the latest on Strider?
Oh, he's out for the year.
Is he out for the year?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't catch up with that, unfortunately. So, hey, look, that helps.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. I mean, it's a long year, and who knows, maybe somebody else steps up for them, and they do have a great team. But yeah, I think when you look at the Phillies right now, the fact that they were able to string 6 straight victories together, it kind of puts them not really ahead of the game because we're still only 22 games into the season.
And they were playing 2 really bad teams.
Right. But they put a beating on them.
Right, they did.
So that's really what they're supposed to do. Coming up, we have the Reds tonight at 6:40 p.m. And I'm going to pull up the full schedule here. Just so we can see.
I think we're on the road now. I think we're playing.
Ooh, it's a big road trip. You got 4 at Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got 3 in San Diego, 3 in LA against the Angels.
Okay, so this is the West Coast trip.
And then you come home and the Giants come into town and Toronto. So,
all decent enough teams.
Yes.
So, bottom line is you want to come out playing, that. Right now, there's 6 games above 500, right?
Right, 14-8.
If you can somehow get through that grouping of games and be 10 games over 500, then I think you're probably in a decent spot.
I love this. Kyle Schwarber has 6 home runs.
Yeah,
and he is batting .217.
right,
with 30 strikeouts.
Right,
that's classic. That's what he does.
Yeah, look at the walks though.
Yeah,
how many walks?
14 walks.
Right.
14 walks. He leads the team.
Yeah, like the kind of games he has is like, you pick up, you see that he hit a home run, and then you're like, okay, what's his line? And it's like 1 for 1, 1 run scored, 2 RBIs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, how about Bryce Harper going on paternity leave? Do you know how long that's going to be?
He said he's going to be back to play Thursday.
Okay. So, they're going to have to make it through the Red Series.
Everybody does that now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, kids aren't that important.
Really? I mean, come on. If we lose the division by 1 game, was it worth it?
Yeah. Seriously.
Kid won't remember the day.
No, it's like taking your kids to Disney World when they're 3.
Right. And I think
you're nuts. Right.
And I think that the wife pretty much already said, hey, you're the breadwinner.
Right.
Do what you got to do.
I don't think she has much to complain about.
Right.
At the risk of offending anyone.
$330 million. She can have her mom in the room with her.
Right. Seriously.
Right.
If she wanted, she could buy a surrogate husband for a little while, and he'd probably be all right with it.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah.
But
hope we don't.
But that being said, enjoy the birth of your baby, Bryce.
Yes, thanks, Bryce. Thanks, Bryce, for taking care of your family.
Yeah, hey, the one thing that I did want to point out, because the Grand Schwalbini's got to bring it to you with truth.
Yes.
And Grand Schwalbini made an error in his way.
Okay.
I previously on another show said that I just felt that Johan Rojas ain't got it.
That's true.
And Johan Rojas is on a frickin' tear. What's got it in front of you?
Right now he's batting .264. He has 6 stolen bases, only 8 strikeouts, 4 walks, 2 RBIs. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
well,
but I think you're talking about the last few games.
Well, remember when we had talked about him, he was hitting like 160.
Yeah.
And it just looked like he couldn't even get around on the ball.
Yeah, you sent this tweet to me.
Yeah, his last 10 games, he's got a 419 average, 13 for 31, 6 runs, 5 stolen bases, 2 walks, 2 Ks, and obviously A+ defense. So hey, look, if you can hit even 250 and have that glove out there in center field and steal bases, that's exactly what we need. So maybe they were a little bit smarter than the Grand Schwalbini. Maybe Rob Thompson and Dave Dombrowski have a better feel on Johan Rojas than I do.
It's possible.
It's possible. They've met him. I haven't.
Right.
And so maybe they'll be rewarded for sticking it out with the youngster. So. Yeah. Hats off to Rojas for kind of turning things around. Let's try to make sure that this sticks, though, and it's not just a nice hot streak.
Okay, so since you are at the quintessential Aaron Nola doubter,
yes, how
do you feel about him right now?
I feel okay about him.
I knew that was going to come.
I mean, he's look. He's a good pitcher.
I mean, a 3.16 ERA early in the season.
Yeah, he's a good pitcher.
Not shabby.
He's a good pitcher. I mean, I just don't have the utmost confidence in him.
Yeah.
I feel like he gives up too many home run balls.
Yeah.
And in a way, I'm just not crazy about the kind of pitcher that he is. I prefer the guys to blow people away.
Yeah.
So like when Wheeler is on, it's like
he's unhittable.
You can't hit him. You know what I mean? Now when Nola is on, it's more like a Greg Maddux type thing. He's painting the corners.
Yeah.
Or he's like, he's throwing like a 96 fastball and then the changeup's 85.
Right.
That kind of thing. Right. But I always feel like, hey, if they're not giving you the corners, you can be screwed.
Right. That's true.
Because you're going to run 3-2 counts and then you got to put one over the plate.
Yeah.
And they're going to crush it. And top players now, they can hit a 96 mile per hour fastball a long way.
They can,
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan, but I'm okay with it. I mean, like to me, I have way more confidence in Ranger Suarez than I do in him. And I honestly think I really even have more confidence in Sanchez. Now, the funny thing about Sanchez is his best out pitch is the changeup.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy. Like when you watch him pitch, you're like, geez, he's just like lobbing it up there. No, but nobody can hit it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's all about the setup.
Right. It's all about the setup. The arm angle looks the same as the fastball and, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But, because if you think the time you have to make a decision between a 95 mile an hour pitch and an 88 mile an hour pitch,
right.
You're talking milliseconds.
Right.
So, I think that's great. Now, I happen to believe that, it's early in the year. So again, 22 games into the season does not a season make. However, for them to kind of prove to themselves that they can string together 6 straight victories, hopefully 7. That bodes well for the team early in the season because you're not getting into a funk real quick. You started off a little cold and then you got hot. And so if you can ride this Right. We don't have those panic moments that we have had the last couple years
Right.
mid-season where you're like, I don't know, they're going to have to do this,
Right.
in order to do it.
And I think what's good about the team is it's a deep team, so you can have nights where, look, I mean, probably the two biggest stars in the lineup are obviously Bryce Harper and then probably Kyle Schwarber because of the home runs.
Right.
But, if those guys don't have it one night, like in this win streak, there was a night where Bohm had 2 home runs, and
he had a big day. Both 3-run homers.
Both 3-run homers.
Right.
There's games where Brandon Marsh Marsh has got 5 homers
when he's not making shitty plays in the field. Look, I swear, every time. I mean, I follow the Phillies.
I agree,
but I don't really watch their games. But I'm telling you, every game of the Phillies that I have watched, I have only watched maybe 2 or 3 innings. Every time, he's the guy, the ball goes under his glove, and it's a triple.
Oh, I know.
Like, what's his problem?
No, it is the truth. I mean, everybody makes a big deal about how he's like a good defensive player because he does make like diving catches.
Right.
But he also really screws some up.
Yes. I think his hair gets in the way. I'm serious. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to admit, like, what's going on with that hair? It's awful.
Just like,
I mean,
chop it off. Man.
But you can even have the beard. But what's with like the wet hair
That's
that
what
comes
I'm saying.
on the side of it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Shorten it up. And
it's like it's so ugly.
I mean, I'm only partially joking around when I say I think his hair gets in the way.
Yeah.
Because when you're running full speed and you have to change angles and you have hair that's literally down to your midsection, it flies around.
Right.
And I'm not kidding. That could be distracting. I mean, I know, look, hey, it's not part of baseball, but just like shave the head and see what happens.
Yes.
Maybe you'll catch some of those short hops. Maybe they won't go under your glove. And then every time they go under his glove, he looks up and smiles and then runs against the ball. It's kind of the old Deontay Johnson running backwards, I mean, so, but yeah, it's good to see that the Phillies are able to string some victories together in the beginning of the year and not get behind the 8 ball and kind of give themselves a little bit of a cushion so that now, even if they just play 500 ball to the All-Star break, you're still going to have a winning record. You're still going to be relevant at that time. And again, we talk about this all the time. It's really, it's really doesn't mean a whole lot until you get into June.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's what we want to see.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's nice. It's nice that they beat up on some bad teams, but now they've got some good teams. Now you can't go lose 6 in a row or 5 of 6.
Yeah. And put yourself right back in there.
Right back where you started.
Okay.
Steve says happy birthday to the Fanatic.
Oh yeah.
You have to
absolutely love the Philly
hats
Fanatic.
Off to the Fanatic.
Do you remember the year that there was a year when we were in college in Philadelphia? And I think the Phillies, I don't know if it was something along the lines of they started the year on the road for like the 5th straight year. And there was news stories like, why do they keep starting the season on the road? Or if it was the longest string of road games to start the season in their history. Like maybe they had a 9 or 10 game road trip, but the Fanatic camped out on the top of Veterans Stadium.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And every night at the end of the news broadcast, they would show the Fanatic on top of Veterans Stadium with a flag, and he would be looking out into the sunset.
Right.
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
I do rank the Fanatic as the number one.
I think he's number one.
He is absolutely number one.
Yeah. I mean, some people go with the chicken. But
the chicken kind of started it all like craziness.
Right.
But the Fanatic is the one that he's got balls. The Fanatic has balls.
He does.
He ripped Steve's Pirates hat off one time.
Right. Yeah.
He'll do anything.
Right.
He'll do anything. And I think people love that. Follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And please remember, subscribe to the Grand Schwalbini on the Philadelphia Sports Porch YouTube channel. It's www.youtube.com/ at Philadelphia Sports Porch.
You're starting to get it.
Thank you very much. I'm trying really hard.
You're starting to get it. Yeah, you're
that.
just speaking more slowly.
That's
more
right.
Succinctly.
Thank you. Well, I have a voice coach now.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yeah,
you need one.
Completely lying about that.
Well, you need one.
All right, let's flip the page. Page 3. Now, football season actually officially starts this Thursday night with the NFL draft. The Eagles. The draft is Thursday. And what we want from you, Grand Schwalbini,
yes,
and we want you to write it down.
You bet.
First pick for the Eagles. Who do you think it's going to be?
Can I give a few?
No. You got to pick one. Now, well, you can talk about who you think they might, but we want you. You're the Grand Schwalbini. You predict. You pull out the lamp. You predict.
I
stumped him.
Well, okay.
You just don't want to hang yourself out to dry, do you?
No. I need the guy's name because it's one of those Hawaiian names that's difficult. So let me just look him up right now. Okay.
Well, I'm pulling up the. This is the analysis of the picks. What pick do they have?
They are pick number 22.
22. I've got it right here. Right. 22.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. Here is my prediction. Eagles are picking at number 22. They will trade up to number 16 to select defensive end from UCLA, Loatu Latu.
That's his name.
Yeah, who some consider to be the best defensive end in the draft. And then Howie is going to say, see, I knew I was doing this. That's why I let Hassan Reddick go.
You're right. Yeah. You think that's what he's going to say?
Oh, no, he's not going to say that. But I think that's something that makes sense. That's my prediction. Now, if they don't move up, okay, if they stay at 22, I think what you're going to be looking at is either an offensive tackle, somebody who will, ultimately replace Lane Johnson, and hopefully a guy who can play guard prior to switching out over. Because, right now there's one spot open on the Eagles offensive line, and that's the right guard spot.
Right.
So if you can get a guy who's got versatility, who can, be your day one starter at guard, and then, in 2 years when Lane retires, be the starting right tackle, I think that's probably what they're looking for. So there's a number of guys that could kind of like fit that mold. Some of them are like, there's a guy, J.C. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama. There's Tyler Guyton, an offensive tackle from Oklahoma.
Right.
There's a guy, Taliese Fuaga, an offensive tackle from Oregon State. And a guy, Amarius Mims, an offensive tackle from Georgia. So my guess would be if they don't trade up for the pass rusher, they're going to take one of those offensive tackles. Let's just say, I'll just give you one more scenario. Let's just say they're not able to trade up, and all those tackles are gone. Okay. It wouldn't shock me if they took the best corner available. Right.
And Steve made that comment, he thinks they should trade up for Arnold from Alabama.
Terry Arnold. Yeah. So, yeah, and I like him the most in the draft from the corner spot as well. So, I just think that here's the thing. The last corner that the Eagles took in the first round was Lito Shepherd.
Yeah.
So, and I believe that's when we were still living together in college.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, that was a long time ago.
Right. So, they don't typically like to do that, but they do like to take corners early in the second round. So there's going to be this is a big draft for offensive linemen. It's a big draft for wide receivers. So they think there's going to be about 7 or 8 offensive tackles going. There's going to be about 6 or 7 wide receivers going. And it's a big draft for quarterbacks. There's going to be about 5 quarterbacks going. So I think the Eagles look at it as we can maybe get the 3rd, 4th, or 5th best corner in the 2nd round.
Right.
So I could see them more going that approach. One guy that they have also showed some interest in is Cooper DeJean or DeJean. He's a corner for Iowa, who apparently is a really good tackler. Like the difference between him and like a Terrion Arnold and a Kool-Aid McKinstry, coolest name in the league.
Kool-Aid.
Those guys are like 4.2, 4.3 guys. And like, I guess Cooper must be really slow at 4.4, right?
Yeah, I know.
But, like, honestly, to me, if you've got good football instincts, there's no difference between 4.4 and 4.3.
No, and they track that without any pads on.
Right. So
that dramatic.
Just running in a straight line.
I mean, how many guys were not necessarily in the class of world-class sprinter in the draft.
Right.
But when you watch them play in pads, they're the fastest guy in the field.
Right.
So,
like I don't know. I don't know what Jerry Rice's, 40 time was, but I never saw him get caught.
Yeah. Exactly.
And he certainly wasn't a 4.2.
Yeah. Probably not.
Right.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
That I really don't care to answer that much, but maybe someday.
But yeah, so there's a bunch of guys for you to think about, ponder about, Eagles fans.
But your prediction is they will trade up to 16 for
Latu, defensive end, UCLA.
I was going to say Meli Kalikimaka. For Meli Kalikimaka.
No, Steve's saying DeJean's going to go like top 10. I don't think so, man. I've seen him in a lot of drafts going, in the late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. I just real quick have to question the reasoning behind Steve's Facebook profile picture there.
Yeah, it doesn't really offer much.
No, it makes me a little uncomfortable, actually. Maybe you want to change that too.
It's like he's not even sure if he's smiling.
Yeah.
And I think, are you squinting? Like, is the sun in your eyes?
He maybe. Yeah. And what is he smiling for? What did he do?
I don't know.
He looks like the kid that got caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
It's questionable.
It is questionable.
Suspect, to say the least.
Okay. Follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And we're going to get an answer from Steve here. I know it. GFY. We know what that means. That seems to be his favorite phrase right now.
GFY.
Yeah, you know that.
I can't keep up with them all. What's that?
Go F yourself.
Oh,
there
okay.
you go.
All right, there you go.
I mean, coming from a guy who is as holy as hockey Jesus. I mean, is there a descent?
Yeah.
A descent from grace?
My question is: so which is it? Are you really religious, or are you just a foul-mouthed, loud bastard?
And also remember that you can follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube at youtube.com/@Philadelphia Sports Porch. The Grand Schwalbini will be on after every Sixers game for a recap, and during the Phillies season, he will be on periodically, catching everybody up on his thoughts on the Philadelphia Phillies. And this is analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. It's the truth. It's his real feelings. He doesn't hold back, and he's pretty entertaining, actually.
I am. I can be when I want to be.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should try harder.
Yes.
Let's move on to page 4 here, which is not really page 4 because we have something that we do every year on Philadelphia Beautiful on Facebook.
And it's not too far away.
It is not. The 2024 Philadelphia Cheesesteak Challenge is coming soon. And I think ahead of that, we're going to have a special event.
We're going to try to. We're going to have a bunch of folks.
It's going to be the Great Cheesesteak Debate.
Yes, some of the best cheesesteak experts in the city of Philadelphia. We're going to hear from them, and we're going to find out, what's the most important thing? Is it the roll? Is it the cheese? Is it the steak? Is it how you dice up the steak? What is it?
Yeah, wow,
right?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that, actually.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
We're going to have some fun.
And actually, and this is a serious thing.
Yeah.
We do want to pass on condolences. The owner, Mrs. Paxia of Lillo's Tomato Pies, passed away.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and I think actually the funeral was today.
That's really a shame.
So they were, the competitor that came in second.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, came in second last year in terms of best cheesesteaks.
Is it we were pronouncing it wrong? Was it Lilo's or Lillo's, or remember there were people correcting us?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Now what's going to happen to Lilo's?
I think it'll go on.
It's
strong
in the family
because it's her and her husband's place,
and they came in second place last year.
Yeah, they came in second place last year.
I feel.
Yeah.
I feel some votes coming in for them this year.
Yeah.
So in case you don't know, every year Philadelphia Beautiful has the cheesesteak challenge where you, as the followers, get to vote on social media for your favorite cheesesteak in Philadelphia. It starts in late June, early July, right? Early July, right after July 4th.
Yeah, right after July 4th. We go July through August, basically.
Yeah, and it's kind of like an NCAA bracket thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mark has some play-in votes. You can go to Philadelphia Beautiful's Facebook page. You can message him and let him know who your favorite cheesesteak joint is, where you get your favorite cheesesteak. And it doesn't have to be in the city. It's anywhere in the Philadelphia region. And prior to that, we're hoping to set up the Great Cheesesteak Debate, where we have some of the previous winners of the last 5 years come on and talk about what they feel makes the best cheesesteak. And hopefully everybody will participate in that. We'll have a good time. And maybe as the weeks go by, you'll have some updates for us.
Yeah.
How about them apples? All right, guys, listen, follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast on the Apple, whatever their podcast app is, the iHeartRadio app, or anywhere you get your podcasts. And please subscribe, leave a review, and subscribe to the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube, youtube.com/@Philadelphia Sports Porch. And with that, hey, listen, what are we going to say as we leave tonight, Schwaber? I think we know what we're going to say, right?
Let's go Sixers, 10-9-8, 76ers.
There you go, baby.
Your hands, everybody. Philadelphia, 76ers. Stomp your feet, everybody. For Philadelphia, 76ers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Sixers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers.
All right, I am your technical director, and we are out.
Well,